Hi, I'm Graham Fuchs, founder and CEO at Knexus. You're about to see a short sample of Knexus Digital's content, which is helping our users achieve success in digital marketing. I hope you find it interesting.
So first of all, the diversity of people with disabilities. When we talk about accessibility, it really is, many things. It's primarily about providing access to people with disabilities, but it's also a little bit more than that. It's also the ability for any person in any circumstance using any device to access content on the web. But we do talk primarily about people with disabilities, and that is the main focus of today. And people with disabilities are quite diverse in the fact that they use varied software to gain access to the web, like screen readers, screen magnification software, use various interaction techniques, or adapt the user interface in a variety of ways, such as increasing text size, using high contrast displays. I just want to kind of give you a flavour of a few of these diverse displays. But first of all, there's four main categories of disabilities, which I'm sure you all have heard of. You've got visual disabilities, hearing, motor and cognitive impairments. So users may not be able to see very well or even at all, may not be able to hear very well or even at all, not be able to use a mouse very easily or be able to use a mouse at all, or have difficulty with reading. So, if you think about it like this, Google, this is Google, like most of us see it. But if you've got some kind of visual impairment, for example, if you've got diabetic retinopathy, this might be very much how Google looks to you. And it causes kind of dark patches in your field of vision, which can make text and regions of the page quite blurry and distorted. You may, for example, have macular degeneration, where the central focus is blurred and where you're actually trying to look directly at. So text can be very kind of broken and unclear. Or if you've got glaucoma, it's kind of the opposite way around, where you've got a very small viewing field, and you can kind of, I suppose, think of it as looking through life through a straw, where you've got a very small viewing field. So this can be very difficult to view web pages. So some ways in which people might try and make the content more easier to read or accessible to them, they might want to use a high contrast display. And you can easily switch this on a Microsoft computer by using the controls Shift, Alt and Print screen all together, and it will switch your computer into a high contrast display, and it's a very popular setting. It increases the text size, it changes the colour to yellow with a black background, which reduces glare and is much easier to read. People who have reading difficulties, for example, people with dyslexia, may need to change the background settings. Many users like to use a kind of rose-tinted background because it takes the glare away from the page. People who've got more severe disabilities, they may need to use read and write software, which they can highlight text and it will convert it to speech, so they don't have to worry about words which are difficult for them to read. Some users may prefer to use text-only browsers, kind of cuts away all the kind of fuss and it just brings web pages back to bare bones text only, which is easier for some people to read. People who may have moderate visual disabilities may need to increase the size of the pages, so everything's blown up maybe between 1 and 10 times, and it's kind of like looking at a website through a credit card size piece of the page, where maybe they can only see 2 words on the page at a time. And people with more severe visual impairments, for example, those that can't see at all, will have to rely on screen readers, which converts all the text on the page to speech, so it's like audio output, so that they can communicate in that way. And there's people with mobility impairments, and really this category is extremely varied. And it can be people with spinal cord injuries, who have paralysis of the limbs, no use of hands, cerebral palsy, where there's damage and injury to the brain, so they might have impaired speech or involuntary movements, or even people with arthritis. So these users may not be able to use a mouse, they may not be able to control the keyboard very well, and there's lots of different devices they can use. For example, you've got a head wand here which people can put on their head and they can tap away at the keyboard, and that way they don't have to use their hands. Or there's special one-handed keyboards if people have only got one hand, or trackballs. And many of you may know Christopher Reeve, who had that tragic accident on his horse which left him paralysed from the neck downwards. And without specialised technology, he wouldn't have been able to access the web either. But he learned to use voice-activated software so that he could communicate with the web through speech.
We hope you enjoyed our experts' insights. To find out more about upcoming digital marketing topics featured in Knexus Digital, go to www.knexusgroup.com/webinars.